So this is great exercise. You can see you get an initiation of the abdominal muscles, you get a great stretch through the back. And it's basically horse yoga. So my name is Tom Simpson. I'm an equine physio, which means I'm a qualified human physio. Completed a master's in animal physio and I've ended up working primarily in the racing industry and sports performance horses. It's been fantastic. As a physio, the relationship you have with the horse is very important because they're obviously big animals, and if anyone's ever seen a horse decide that it doesn't want to do anything, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. So you have to work around them. They're very amenable to physio and obviously touch, you know, they're engaging animals. So you literally just become a part of what they're about. Palpation's very important, you know, where to touch, where not to touch, and you fit in with each horse with what they enjoy. Obviously, there are areas that you might provoke that they don't like, so you just work around it, and you can have a really good relationship and quite a unique relationship with the horse when you're treating them. The feedback's incredibly important. Obviously, they don't talk, but I like to say they do speak, but they just don't speak English. And so you've got to know the signs to read and the language they speak, and if you do that, everyone benefits. To me, each stable's a football team, and you're the physio that manages these athletes. You know their little movement patterns, you know their gait, you know their personalities, and you tailor every single treatment and management throughout the week to that individual horse. The stables are incredible at following them religiously and routinely, and the horses absolutely thrive off it. If you watch someone working with a horse, you know, they're really amenable to it, they enjoy it, and you know, the results are there. It's great to see. I've always had an affiliation with them. I grew up in the country and it was the one animal that on the farm you'd always spend more time with, etc, etc. Then I did the human physio and then realised I didn't like humans, and I had the opportunity to complete the masters, and I went into it quite naively, quite interesting looking back, which was probably a blessing and a curse, but in many ways going into it with a sort of fresh approach, I suppose, has been amazing. Watching the change and the acceptance of physiotherapy for the equine athlete, and that's literally the way I look at them. I love horses, and they're a superior athlete that require the best of care, and physios, I'd like to think, is a big part of that. So the normal routine, just as a matter of literally that routine, is to double check range of motion of the neck. And so we can do a few little provocation tests that encourage him to do that. A little tickle on the shoulder, so I'm assessing the range of motion, how he moves his head. Does he move it in what's required, what's described as normal? Is there any areas of stiffness, restriction that we can then go and palpate, treat? In terms of this forelimb range of motion, this is a stretch that any horse will love. So you're stretching out all those large shoulder muscles because they spend so long doing fast work. They spend so long under saddle. This is an area that gets really tight and extends up right into their back. It's a very therapeutic and pain relieving stretch. And as you can see, he'll enjoy it. So, I mean, anatomically, surprisingly, they're very similar to us in terms of their attachment of muscles. They obviously just walk on their front legs, so as a quadruped that makes things a little bit different. So they have interesting gait abnormalities, so if they're sore, for example, in the back right leg, that may affect the front left leg because of that diagonal. So they're little challenges that you're faced with. They're very delicate legs, so to keep that muscle supple, good range of motion is so important, not to add certain strain. Obviously the back and the engine room, as I like to call it, of the pelvis is a really important area. Keep that pain-free, and then they can engage and drive and extend, and yeah, that's a really important area. A typical week there's a routine certainly involved with certain horses and certain stables. Most stables have the routine where you'll assess horses post-gallop. So, for example, a Tuesday is a big gallop day leading into a Saturday. And so it's really important for recovery to get straight onto them. So we'll assess them in trot-ups with gait assessment, and then you'll palpate them all over, go over them head to toe, make sure nothing's changed, and then areas you can target. And then once your treatment's completed, indicate to the staff areas that they can manage. And so it's that real team, elite team approach on getting that elite athlete to game day. So Winx is the best, obviously. She sets the benchmark. I first started working with her once she'd sort of started racing a little bit, and why she's so good is interesting. She's sensible. She just does what she's required to do. There's no fuss. She knows it benefits her. She's really incredible now. If I go out of the routine, she'll let me know. She does a little bit of pawing or tells me I've done it the wrong, in the wrong way, and you revert back to it, and yeah, she's one of a kind. I was only reflecting the other day, I'm absolutely spoilt with the trainers that have given me an opportunity, and then to be involved with a horse like Winx will never happen again. You do pinch yourself sometimes. When I remember walking into Randwick and got told to stop wasting everyone's time, I'd never succeed, as it were, in not so many words, but I was a bit deflated that day, and I often think of that because I've been very passionate about the horse as an athlete, and it must be treated like that, and the welfare of these animals is the #1 reason why I do it. There's no question about that, and you leave your ego at the door and you make sure that they're in the best possible health. And watching them perform on race day is a real buzz, and seeing their demeanour in the stable, and then how that translates to race day and how they have to cope with it, and getting there. And some of them you've even seen from the yearling sales, and watching them progress through, and watching the stables manage them and get the best out of them. And Winx is the ultimate example of that. Initially, she was a $280,000 or $50,000 yearling for a reason. She wasn't overly impressive. She was a fine little filly that, has just progressed through great management into an incredible athlete.